The snow fell thick across the silent forest, blanketing every branch and rock in white. Beneath that frozen peace, a struggle exploded in the icy river. A German shepherd thrashed wildly, his paws slicing through the surface as the current dragged him under. His chest burned, lungs screaming for air, but his paw was trapped in twisted roots below. Each desperate kick only tangled him further. Water poured into his mouth, his vision narrowing as the world blurred with panic. Above, the sky was indifferent, gray and endless, flakes melting as they struck the rushing surface. He clawed upward, breaking through for a gasp, then was yanked down again. No human voice called to him, no pack came running. In this wilderness, he was utterly alone, facing death in the white jaws of the river. On the snowy bank, movement stirred. A young bobcat, small yet keen-eyed, crouched low in the frost. Its tufted ears flicked forward, eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. The thrashing in the water was alien, unnatural, yet the kitten did not retreat. Instinct whispered to stay away, but something else, something deeper, urged it closer. The shepherd's struggles sent ripples crashing against the ice-fringed rocks, each thrash weaker than the last. Snowflakes clung to the bobcat's whiskers as it crept forward, claws leaving tiny prints in the powder. It had never entered water before, never defied its family's natural caution, but the sight of the drowning figure cracked that barrier. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a sudden leap, the bobcat plunged into the river, swallowed instantly by the dark, icy current beside the shepherd.
The shepherd's vision darkened, his body leaden with exhaustion. Suddenly, a weight brushed his trapped paw. Not the crushing force of current, but something alive, small, determined. Tiny claws scraped at the roots, ensnaring him. Then came sharp teeth biting, not into flesh, but into the wood. The shepherd thrashed once, freed. A burst of air filled his lungs as he broke the surface. Next to him, paddling furiously, was the kitten, ears flattened, eyes blazing with wild determination. They swam side by side, current pushing them downstream. The shepherd fought, muscles burning, while the kitten's little body sliced water with improbable courage. Finally, paws struck mud beneath. Together they stumbled onto shore, collapsing in heaps on the snowy ground, steam rising from their wet coats. Predator and prey, side by side, both gasping, both alive because of the other. A bond had just been written in the water. The snowy silence cracked. From the shadows of pine and spruce, larger shapes emerged, adult bobcats. Their yellow eyes locked onto the shepherd sprawled helplessly beside their cub. Hackles raised, muscles taut, danger surged through the clearing. The shepherd staggered upright, dripping, every instinct telling him to run, but exhaustion rooted him. His gaze flicked to the kitten. It had saved him, now stood before him, tufts bristled, yet strangely protective. The adults circled, torn between instinct to strike and confusion at their young one's loyalty. Snow crunched under heavy paws, breath misted in the cold air, tension wired the scene tight as steel. The shepherd's chest heaved, knowing a single lunge could end him, but no attack came. Something unseen passed in that moment, a silent pact. The adults held back. The kitten pressed against the shepherd's leg, and in that fragile stillness, he was spared.
The shepherd, trembling from cold and exhaustion, took halting steps backward. Snow clung to his fur, water freezing into his thick coat. The adult bobcats watched with silent warning, but did not give chase. The kitten stood tall for its size, eyes never leaving the shepherd's. For a long moment, predator and prey locked gazes, neither fully understanding, yet both knowing something extraordinary had begun. Finally, the shepherd turned, limping toward the dark line of trees. But at the edge of the clearing, he paused, glancing back. The kitten still stared, its small body framed by falling snow, as though memorizing him. Then the forest swallowed the shepherd's form. Alone again, he vanished into the storm. Yet deep within him, a seed had been planted, a bond carved in survival. In the snowy quiet, a bobcat kitten had chosen loyalty over instinct. Weeks turned into months, snowstorms coming and going across the endless forest. The shepherd healed, strength returning to his broad chest and powerful legs. No longer the near-drowned wanderer, he became a force again, prowling his territory in the deep woods. Yet he never forgot the riverbank, nor the eyes of the kitten that had spared his life. From time to time, when the snow fell heavy and the air carried silence, he returned. Always at a distance, always cautious, he watched the bobcat family. The kitten had grown, climbing rocks, leaping through snowdrifts, already testing its claws against the wild. Each time their eyes met across the white expanse, the shepherd's heart surged with something beyond survival. It was a bond unlike any the wilderness had known, a bond that defied nature itself, pulsing like fire beneath the snow.
The snow finally thinned into spring melt, rivers roaring with fresh torrents. The forest greened, but cold winds still cut across the ridges. Through it all, the shepherd thrived. Once abandoned, he now commanded respect among other strays, drawing a pack of dogs to him. They were scarred, fierce, survivors like him, 10 strong, loyal to his lead. Together they hunted, roamed, and carved their place in the wild margins where man's touch had faded. Yet the shepherd's heart carried more than survival. He often strayed from his pack, alone, following scents in the wind that carried memory of fur brushed in snow, eyes lit with defiance. He found the bobcat sometimes, grown sleek, muscles coiled, a shadow in the pines. They never touched, never spoke, but the space between them hummed with silent recognition. Each season only deepened the bond that no storm could erase. The shepherd and bobcat crossed paths at riverbanks, in snowy meadows, beneath the glowing moonlight. Each meeting carried the same stillness, the same weight of something unspoken. The bobcat no longer a helpless kitten, but fierce, with claws sharp and body honed. The shepherd no longer a drowning victim, but a leader, his pack waiting in shadows. Predator and rival, yet neither struck. Instead, they shared silence, acknowledgement that their lives had once been bound in the river's grip. At times, the shepherd would lay low on a ridge, watching as the bobcat hunted rabbits in snow. At other times, the bobcat paused its chase to stare at the faint prints of dog paws left near its den. The forest whispered of it. Unseen eyes carried the story. In the heart of the American wilderness, 2 natural enemies shared an impossible truce.
Snow returned heavy that winter, cloaking the land in bitter silence. Food grew scarce, prey vanished into burrows, and hunger sharpened every creature's eyes. In that lean season, danger drifted into the forest. A lion, gaunt with ribs sharp beneath his hide, strayed north beyond his kind's land. Driven by starvation, he prowled the snowy woodlands, drawn by scent of prey. The bobcat, grown but still young compared to giants, became his target. The storm whirled thick, muffling sound as paws padded closer. The bobcat froze, golden eyes darting. The forest had predators, but never like this. Snow fell heavier, shadows lengthened, and the lion's rumbling growl rolled like thunder between the trees. Alone,
The bobcat's claws dug into frozen ground. Instinct screamed to run, but the storm had trapped it against the cliffs. Death, massive and merciless, bore down upon it. The storm split with violence. Snow sprayed as the lion lunged, its bulk ripping through drifts, golden fur ablaze against the white. The bobcat hissed, claws flaring, body crouched low. But the difference was crushing, tiny against massive, agile yet hopelessly overpowered. The lion's roar drowned the wind, echoing across the valley. The bobcat darted aside, narrowly dodging claws that gouged into ice. A single strike could shatter bones. A single bite could end the fight before it began. The bobcat slashed back, scoring shallow lines across the lion's muzzle. But fury only burned brighter in the predator's eyes. Snow swirled, hiding nothing, revealing only the cruel truth. The bobcat stood seconds from death, alone in the storm, beneath the crushing weight of nature's law. It braced to meet its end. Yet from beyond the snow came another sound, deep, rising, fierce.
Through the blizzard, shadows emerged, powerful bodies moving as one, eyes burning with fire. 10 dogs, scarred from battles past, fanned across the snowy ground in disciplined formation. At their center strode the German shepherd, chest broad, fur thick with years of strength. No longer the drowning victim, no longer alone, now the commander of a squad. Their snarls split the night, rolling through the storm like thunder. The lion's head jerked, fury meeting surprise. The shepherd advanced, each paw deliberate, tail rigid with purpose. Behind him, his squad circled wide, jaws flashing white against the darkness. The bobcat froze, heart pounding, recognizing the figure at once, the one it had saved, the one who had never forgotten. In that moment, predator and prey ceased to matter. The shepherd had returned, not for himself, but for the bond written in snow and water. The snow exploded as the two forces collided. The lion roared, massive paws striking with bone-shaking force, scattering dogs like leaves in wind. But the squad regrouped instantly, lunging at its flanks, snapping at legs, driving teeth into golden hide. Blood splattered hot across the snow, staining white with crimson. The shepherd leapt forward, clamping jaws into the lion's shoulder, holding fast despite the predator's violent thrashing. Pain seared his body, claws raked across his side, yet he refused to release. Around him, his squad fought with reckless loyalty, each bite carving survival into the night. The lion swatted one dog aside, sending it yelping into the drifts, but another filled the gap instantly. Storm winds howled, drowning the cries of battle, yet beneath it, the shepherd's growl burned steady, a refusal to surrender. The forest shook as loyalty and survival collided in blood. From the cliffs, the bobcat watched in frozen horror. The sight tore its chest apart. This was not a battle of chance, not a clash of hunger and prey. This was sacrifice. The shepherd, once helpless in water, now led an army into death's jaws for its sake. The lion, bloodied yet raging, swung with earth-shattering force, scattering dogs like toys. Yet still they surged, still they pressed. The shepherd remained at the front, wounds deepening, but eyes locked on the predator threatening his bond. Snow stung the bobcat's face, mixing with tears it didn't understand. It wanted to leap, to fight, but its claws were nothing against that giant. All it could do was witness the unbearable truth that nature's law had been broken, and one who owed nothing was giving everything. In the blizzard's heart, the shepherd's courage roared louder than the storm. At last, exhaustion cracked the lion's fury. Its golden body heaved, sides heaving, blood dripping in thick streams from wounds carved by relentless jaws. The squad, battered and bloodied, still ringed him, eyes burning with unity. The shepherd stood at the center, chest rising with shallow breaths, fur matted with crimson, yet stance unbroken. The lion's tail lashed, teeth bared, but hesitation now clouded its gaze. Snow whipped harder, masking its retreat as it backed away. One last roar ripped the storm before it turned, vanishing into white wilderness. Silence fell, broken only by the panting of dogs and the hiss of snow on blood. The shepherd swayed, but did not fall. His pack gathered close, their bodies pressed against his in battered victory. The bobcat stared, trembling, as the impossible truth settled. The lion had fled. The shepherd had saved it.
The battlefield was silent, snow swallowing the echoes of roars and snarls. The German shepherd stood trembling, his body streaked with claw marks, his breath ragged with pain. Yet his eyes held fire still, burning not with triumph, but with something pure, protection. The squad circled him, some limping, some bleeding, but all alive, forged by loyalty stronger than death. Across the clearing, the bobcat stepped forward, hesitant, chest heaving. It stared at the shepherd, memories flooding, the river, the rescue, the bond born in impossible defiance. Snow fell thick, blanketing blood and wounds alike, muting the cruelty of what had passed. The shepherd lowered his head once, a silent gesture of farewell, then turned. Without a word, without claim of reward, he led his battered squad into the storm, leaving behind only paw prints and a bond eternal in the snow. The bobcat remained frozen as the shepherd and his squad vanished into the blizzard. Their paw prints stretched, like scars across the snow, fading beneath drifting flakes. Alone, the bobcat felt the silence press heavy, louder than any roar. The lion had been death certain, but now survival carried its own ache. A predator had saved a predator, not for dominance, not for hunger, but for something beyond nature's script. The bobcat padded forward to where blood stained the snow, lowering its head. There was no victory in the crimson, only sacrifice. A soundless vow formed in its chest. It would never forget. The forest swallowed the shepherd's shape, but memory seared deeper than claws ever could. The bond had been tested by fire, sharpened by blood. Though paths now diverged, their spirits remained tied like threads woven beneath the snow.
Weeks passed. Storms came and went, burying the battlefield beneath new blankets of snow. Where blood had once marked crimson streaks, now only silence and white remained. The lion never returned, its hunger driven elsewhere. Prey crept back into the meadows, deer bending to nibble frost-tipped grass, rabbits darting through shadows. The bobcat healed its scratches, stalking through drifts once more, but its steps often slowed at ridges where it could see far. Somewhere beyond, the shepherd roamed with his pack. The forest whispered of them, scarred dogs patrolling snowy clearings, their leader carrying wounds yet walking tall. Though no paw prints crossed together, the memory of sacrifice lingered like breath in cold air. The forest itself seemed changed, as if it too bore witness to the defiance of instinct that had bound two unlikely hearts in survival and trust. The shepherd returned, not often, but enough for the bond to breathe. From the shadows of pines heavy with snow he watched. His squad waited behind, respectful of their leader's silence. Eyes sharp, ears forward, he kept vigil over the bobcat from a distance. Sometimes the bobcat caught him there, golden eyes piercing the snow-veiled distance. Neither approached, yet neither turned away. Their gazes locked like invisible threads stretched across the storm. In those moments the world narrowed, no hunger, no rivals, only remembrance of river and battle.
Then, without sound, the shepherd would fade back into white, vanishing with his squad into the storm. The bobcat always remained a while longer, staring where he had stood, heart pounding with something it could not name. In a world built on instincts of claw and fang, they had created a bond of choice. The shepherd's squad grew restless at times. Their loyalty was unquestioned, but they felt the pull of survival. To them, guarding a bobcat was folly. Yet the shepherd's will was iron. His body carried the scars of that lion's fury, and his spirit carried the fire of a vow. They followed because his strength commanded, but also because they had seen him defy death itself. Around campfires of snow and wind, they lay huddled in circles, eyes gleaming in the night, listening as the forest whispered the tale. They too had fought for the bond, whether they understood it or not. The pack became guardians of a secret truth. Their leader's heart had been claimed by something beyond instinct, beyond the law of predator and prey. Though their paws wandered far, they always circled back to the forest corner where the bobcat roamed. Winter deepened, pressing cruel trials onto the wilderness. Storms howled, freezing rivers solid. Prey dwindled to whispers of scent. Hunger clawed at bellies, frost bit into paws, yet the shepherd's squad endured. Through nights of blizzards, they hunted as one, tearing sustenance from ice-crusted fields. Yet even in famine, the shepherd strayed, searching for a familiar form among snowdrifts. The bobcat, too, faced its own gauntlet, fighting coyotes, surviving storms, carving its solitary path through the frozen woods. And still, despite suffering, their paths aligned. When the shepherd returned to the cliffs, when the bobcat lingered by riverbanks, eyes would meet again. No food shared, no words exchanged. Only the silent recognition that they lived still, because once, each had chosen the other over death.
One night, the wind carried a sound that froze the shepherd's quad mid-step. A roar, low and haunting, echoing through frozen valleys. Not the lion, it had long retreated south, but another predator, wolves. A great pack moved through the northern ridges, hunger driving them wide into new territory. Their howls split the night, rising in chorus, chilling marrow even in hardened dogs. The shepherd raised his head, ears tall, eyes burning with alert fire. This was no lion's lone fury, but a tide of numbers, ruthless and relentless. The squad bristled, uneasy but waited for his command. The shepherd turned toward the pines, where snow bent low under silence. Instinct told him the wolves would eventually cross paths with the bobcat. His heart told him something stronger. He would not allow the forest to claim his bond. Far across the valley, the bobcat sensed it too. A vibration in the snow, a whisper in the silence, the weight of many paws moving as one. Wolves. Larger, hungrier, more relentless than coyotes. Their scent burned through the storm, filling the air with promise of violence. The bobcat bristled, claws digging into frozen bark as it perched high in pine branches, watching white shadows slip between trees. Its heart pounded, ears flicking, every nerve alive with tension. Alone, it was vulnerable. Even sharp claws and fierce teeth could not break a wall of hungry wolves. Snow muffled their approach, yet instinct screamed they would find it. As the pack fanned wide beneath the moonlight, the bobcat held still, golden eyes unblinking, praying that silence would shield it. But hunger sharpened senses, and already, heads turned, sniffing upward towards its perch. The wolves gathered beneath the tree, jaws dripping, breath rising in steaming clouds. Growls rippled through the night air as they circled, waiting for the bobcat to slip. Just as claws reached higher, snow cracked. A deeper growl rolled from the darkness. The wolves froze, heads whipping toward the sound. From the storm emerged the shepherd, flanked by his squad, eyes burning, scars gleaming in the moonlight. No hesitation, no fear. His arrival split the air like thunder. Wolves snarled in response, but unease rippled through them. They remembered the shepherd's scent, his defiance carved into wild law by battles past. Snow crunched as his squad fanned wide, mirroring the wolves' circle. The standoff thickened, silence stretching taut. Above, the bobcat's chest surged, golden eyes locked on the figure below. Once again, impossibility had arrived. Once again, the shepherd stood between it and death. Then chaos erupted. The wolves lunged as one, a tide of fur and fangs crashing into the shepherd's squad. Snow flew in sprays, snarls split the night, and blood quickly stained white ground. The shepherd hurled himself into the fray, jaws crushing, eyes blazing with primal fire. His squad matched him, each dog meeting two foes, refusing to yield. The bobcat leapt from its perch, claws tearing into flanks, adding its fury to the defense. Wolves howled, savage and unrelenting, but every strike was answered by teeth and loyalty. Bodies collided, snow churned red, the air alive with cries of defiance. The shepherd fought at the heart, bearing wounds but never faltering, each movement fueled not by survival alone, but by the bond he carried. In the frozen pines, nature's law bent once more, predator and prey fighting as one.
The battle dragged, teeth flashing in the storm, claws ripping fur, yelps of pain cutting sharp through wind. Wolves pressed harder, their numbers endless, yet the shepherd's squad refused to break. Loyalty burned hotter than hunger. Side by side, dogs fought, some falling, some limping back into the fray. The shepherd clashed with the alpha, a massive brute scarred by countless winters. Their bodies slammed, rolling through drifts, snapping jaws echoing like thunder. Snow shook from branches above, each impact shaking earth. The bobcat tore into flanks, fierce beyond size, its golden eyes burning with shared fire. Wolves hesitated, momentum cracking under the unexpected unity. Against odds, against numbers, defiance grew like flame in the blizzard. When the alpha faltered, pinned beneath the shepherd's jaws, silence rolled across the pack. Their chorus broke, and the tide of wolves began to scatter. The forest quieted at last, wolves melting into the night, their howls fading into the distance. Silence fell, broken only by panting, by the drip of blood melting snow. The clearing lay scarred, red splashes staining white, bodies sprawled both dog and wolf alike. The shepherd stood trembling, wounds deep, fur matted with crimson, yet chest still heaving with stubborn breath. His squad huddled close, battered but alive, pressing against him with wordless unity. The bobcat stood apart, chest surging, claws bloodied, gaze fixed on the shepherd with a depth that pierced deeper than storm or hunger. Together, they had done the impossible again. Sacrifice upon sacrifice, survival carved in shared scars. Snow swirled around them, covering the marks of war, yet nothing could bury the bond forged in water. Tested by lion, sealed by wolves. It had become eternal.
Morning broke, pale sun struggling through heavy clouds. The battlefield lay quiet, no sound but the crunch of paws in fresh snow. The shepherd, limping but proud, gathered his squad. They formed behind him, loyal shadows ready to follow wherever he led. Across the clearing, the bobcat waited, golden eyes locked on his. For a long moment, time itself seemed to halt. No storm, no hunger, no death, only eyes, only memory. The shepherd dipped his head once, slow and deliberate, a farewell deeper than words. The The bobcat lifted a paw, Snow clinging to fur, returning the gesture. Silence bound them tighter than any roar. Then, with quiet strength, the shepherd turned, leading his squad into the forest. The bobcat stood alone, heart pounding, knowing farewell was not an ending, but a promise. He would return as he always had. Snow melted into streams, forests greened, life breathed once more into the wild. Yet seasons changed without erasing the bond. The shepherd thrived, scars hardening into maps of loyalty, his squad growing older under his watch. The bobcat hunted, roamed, and carved its life, fierce among cliffs and shadows. Yet each season's turn brought their paths close again. In snowfall, paw prints appeared near dens. In spring, eyes caught across valleys. In summer, shadows lingered at ridges. And always, in silence, they acknowledged one another. Predator and prey no longer, enemies no longer. They had become guardians in each other's worlds. The forest told their story in whispers. Prey scurried with awe. Ravens carried it in croaks above. Two lives once bound by chance, now eternal in memory, carried forward with each heartbeat of wilderness.
The shepherd grew older, but never weak. His eyes carried storms. His chest bore the power of countless battles. Yet whenever danger neared the corner of forest where the bobcat roamed, he returned. Sometimes unseen, sometimes only shadows shifting at tree lines, but always there. The bobcat felt it too, lifting its head at odd hours, golden gaze searching horizons where he often stood. A protector not demanded, not required, but chosen. Their bond had never been of instinct, never of hunger or dominance. It was something beyond, sacrifice layered upon sacrifice, trust carved in defiance of nature. Snow fell again, blanketing forest white. The shepherd stood watch, silent against the storm, while deep in the pines, the bobcat rested without fear. They had broken nature's law, but in doing so, they had written their own. Time moved, yet the tale endured. The German shepherd and the bobcat, creatures who should have been rivals, bound by survival, bound by sacrifice. From river's jaws to lion's roar, from wolf's howl to storm's silence, they had carried each other through death itself. The snow remembered their battles, the forest whispered their loyalty, and the wild itself bent around their defiance. No witness carved it in stone, no human voice spread it, but every creature of the forest carried it in eyes and silence. It became legend, spoken not in words, but in memory. The story of a drowning dog saved by a kitten, and of a leader who gave his blood to repay that bond. In snowfall and green forest, beneath storm and silence, their bond lived eternal. A tale of sacrifice, a tale of guardianship, a tale of love beyond nature.